Hi everyone, this is Penguin Trades. We're looking at the ES futures on a 500 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So a couple days ago, price started this large downtrend and we ended up getting an overshoot yesterday. Overshoots tend to lead to breaks. That's exactly what we got. Two sharp legs up, breaking that downtrend. And so when this downtrend gets a break, price is likely to attempt a new low. And initially that is what happens. You get the very small break here, a couple attempts, fails, you get this attempt to reverse higher, and then we get a much larger new low attempt here. You can see we have two attempts lower, we get a strong failure, and that launches our second leg up. So basically this right here is an uptrend, this is a break, and then these are the two legs up to a new high where it started to reverse down right when it met that measured move. So anyway, as price starts pushing down here, it's kind of a conflicted area. We have to think about it two ways here. So yeah, the measured move was just met. That typically leads to strong reversals, and we're getting that two-legged reversal right here as price is pushing lower. We have that measured move drawn out, but it's also a two-legged break from this uptrend. So when an uptrend gets a break, we can expect price to at least attempt a new high, which is of course the opposite of reversing down from reaching the measured move. And so we have to wait for price to win out in one direction before entering. And that's why we don't buy this measured move directly off of it. If price is reversing off of a major key level, or in this case a major measured move, we're not going to just buy the measured move that's coming off of that other major measured move. So we're not going to just buy this one blindly. It could lead to a very strong reversal down. We don't know that it's going to hold, so it pushes through. Price ends up fading back up. We get a breakout of the overnight low. These act like a typical range, and we get a fade back in. So we go into this uptrend, break, and let me zoom in here. So this uptrend, we get a break, a couple small attempts at a new high, it makes a new high, we reverse down, and then we get this larger two-legged move down right to that previous measured move level. So at this point, basically, the uptrend has a two-legged break, a very strong bullish reaction, making that first attempt at a new high, and then we get a correction, a two-legged break, because even though this uptrend played out with a break and a new high, on a bigger picture we can still tell that it's all one leg up, including the break to a new high. And so when we get this two-legged correction and then we get a clear hold off of that previous measured move level with a rush back above the overnight low, clearly having a strong fade, we can look to get long on this reversal pattern. This is a big picture reversal pattern, basically a failed second entry. So from the low here we have first entry short, second entry short, failure. And so you just got to be able to spot the bigger picture structures. Even though there's a lot of legs in here and there's a trend playing out, you just got to learn how to combine the structures as more price action forms. This is clearly a leg up. This push down to here is the break. This is our first attempt at a new high, and then this is our second attempt at a new high. So when price reaches right here, we have our two attempts. It's made the new high. So at this point, this uptrend is played out. And so we get a reversal attempt, which is very typical from a trend playing out, but it doesn't last long. It ends up making another higher low and continuing higher. And that makes sense because this uptrend is pushing up to a new high. This measured move is in play. It's a large measured move. There's a lot more reason for longs here than shorts here. So if this up measured move is in play, which I'm going to declutter a bit. So if this up measured move is in play and we just had a successful fade, we're not going to look to go short immediately after, especially because it's still in play. So what we want to see is after a breakout, two attempts down with a retest on top of this level. That way we can look to get long on a second entry, retesting this what would be a support level after breaking through. And so it just doesn't happen. When it starts pushing down here, it ends up fading back in, which is already not good because if it's fading back in, then we're not going to be able to take a long off of it, but we're also not going to take a short because, like I said, this up measured move is in play. We just faded. We're not going to look to go short while it's in the middle of this push higher. So anyway, price continues up. We go into this uptrend here. We get this two-legged break. It doesn't reach the measured move. It actually makes a higher low, clearly showing that this overnight high is a good resistance level, or in this case, a support level. So we push up, push back out. We fade back in a little bit here, push out, get another attempt down. That's when it really takes off. So basically a two-legged break and then two legs up to a new high. Really, since this leg didn't go past that previous swing, It's technically just a one-legged break, and then these are your two legs to a new high. You can see right around that measured move, price starts reversing down, and then we get two attempts to fade this overnight high at that measured move. I mean, it goes through a little bit, but very soon after reaching that measured move, it spikes back out. So anyway, as price is pushing lower here, this is a good spot to catch a failed second entry. Now, you see here how you have this gap between the overnight high and then this major measured move level, which is also coincidentally this exact measured move level right here as well. But remember, we're also looking at it from this much larger perspective. So as price is pushing lower here, yeah, you can look to get in on a failed second entry, but if you don't have room to this key level here, this measured move level, and say it sets up, fades back in, get a couple legs back, retesting that high, you'd want to have room to this level right here, and in this case, you just wouldn't really have room for that had it set up. So I would want to see price fully push all the way down, fade the overnight high, get through this measured move level, and then make a two-legged retest in order to get a short. But it just doesn't happen. It just takes off. We go into an uptrend. At this point here, it's pretty clear that the bulls are winning out. Not only has it been in an uptrend, all yesterday and today at this point, but if you break out of an overnight high, which is a major key level, and then you get a two-legged retest, and then it takes off and continues breaking out, then that's telling you, the bears are not strong enough to fade back down into this overnight range. And so the bulls are in control of the market. They're taking price out of the overnight range, and that's what we want to look to continue with. If price is breaking out, we have to look to break out. What we want to see here is two attempts to fade, because price did fade back in here, so it is technically breaking back out. And so if you can get two clear attempts to fade with a good bullish reaction, then you can get long on a fade failure. And so ideally we'd get something like this, two clear legs down, retesting it. That's always great because it's a good support level. But in this case here, that second leg down, it makes a double bottom, but it's not off of any real clear support other than that. It's getting below the EMA. It's closing below the EMA. You'd have to enter right into it, and it barely didn't reach that measured move. So it's just not the greatest long right here. It does take off. Let me just get rid of some of this. So initially, you get the break, first attempt at a new high, and then as price continues lower here, it's kind of borderline because the bodies don't go any lower than those previous bodies, but the wicks do. So, it might count as a two-legged break, and it also might just count as this being the first attempt higher, that being the second attempt higher. How it looks like to me is that it ended up counting as a two-legged break because it did end up making these two attempts at a new high from here. So it acted like a pretty typical two-legged break and then two legs to a new high. We got this initial failed reversal, which gave us another couple legs before finally reversing. So sometimes if it's borderline like that, if price is breaking and then you're getting the second leg down on the break and then it makes a double bottom, it might count as a two-legged break. It might count as the start of the second leg up to a new high. It just depends. Sometimes you got to wait and see how price reacts afterward. And so when you get these two clear legs up right there, it's pretty clear that it's playing out very typically. And so anyway, we don't get any clear, entries off of this. There's not any good longs here on the way up. And then once it reaches this measured move, even though it's reaching a measured move, even though this trend is playing out, you are overall very bullish at this point. So you don't want to go short until you actually start seeing a reversal down. So anyway, price kind of goes sideways for a bit. After reaching this measured move, we finally get this sharper leg down. Initially, it's first leg down, break up to here, second leg down. So it's a second entry off of that double bottom right there. Now, this is a new high reversal. At this point, it's the high of the day. This uptrend just played out with a break, two legs up to a new high. The smaller uptrend just played out with a break to a new high. There's all kinds of resistance, measured moves being met up here. So this is a strong reversal area. And even though it's overall bullish, you don't want to enter long directly on the new high reversal unless it's off of a clear support level or if it's off of some trend. But in this case here, all we have going for it is it's off of this double bottom right here, which is just not good enough considering the overall area of where we're at. Again, all these uptrends are playing out around the same area. This uptrend is a break, couple legs up to a new high. This one's played out with a couple legs to a new high. It's reaching these smaller measured moves. It's getting very stacked. And so it could reverse down from here. So that's why I would want to see something off of actual support, not just off of this double bottom right here. Not to mention, this measured move. It is met, but it's just not good enough. I would really want to see price push up into a failed second entry, which would be perfect too, because it just met this measured move. But it just doesn't happen. So you can see here, as price pushes up, this is our first leg up, and then we get a break, which is this red bar, and then we have our first attempt at a new high, which is to the high of this bar here. We get a break, and then we have our second attempt at a new high, which is to the high back up to here. Initially it fails, and then we get a bigger picture leg up, so making a two-legged move higher. And basically just making a two-legged break between this wider trend right here, because if you get two legs down and then price attempts to reverse and then it fails to reverse before breaching that previous swing, then you got to extend those two lines. Extend these two legs into one and then copy it over on that next swing. So anyway, price pushes down here, and I didn't buy it directly on the measured move, basically because of what I was saying just a bit ago. This is a common reversal area. Price could reverse down from here, but the difference between buying right here and buying right here, like I was saying I don't want to do, is we're actually off of clear support right here. Price retested this major measured move level. So it met this major measured move level, and then it closed back above the overnight high. So it rejected it rejected the measured move level, and it rejected the overnight high very, very bullishly with this bar nearly closing on its high. I didn't care that it was below the EMA. We're making higher lows. We're holding off of a clear support level. With a very bullish bar. We have room to these highs up here. This was a great looking trade. Price had already broken out of the overnight high, made this retest here. This was our first attempt up since the retest here. We got two legs back, great bullish reaction. This is clearly the start of that second leg up. This is a great looking trade. Price continues up, ends up going past those highs. It breaks out, reaches this measured move perfectly, nearly to the tick, and then reverses down. So that led to a very, very strong reversal. And, throughout this whole time that price was in this area, I know it's a common reversal area. You got to be careful about going long, but you still can look to get long. It just has to, be the right trade. It has to be off of support. You can't have it can't be directly on a reversal. It has to have something going for it. So like in this case here, like I said, we got two attempts to reverse here, but we're making higher lows. We got the bullish reaction. We're making that second leg up. And so finally, it just needed to reach this larger measured move before getting that reversal. So as price pushes lower here, it depends on how bearish it reacts. Sometimes you'll reach these measured moves and then it just won't react well at all. And in that case, you want to be cautious about getting in on a reversal. It struggles for a bit here, mainly just because this thin uptrend needs to play out. We got an uptrend, break, new high, then we finally reverse down. So it reverses pretty swiftly here. So on the way down, if you get a failed second entry, you can look to get short, even though we're overall up. But you have to make sure that you're not entering into any support or any uptrend lines or anything like that. But you can look to get in on some kind of reversal in this area here just because of the big picture context of it. Everything's played out and we finally met the larger measured move. We have plenty of room for a reversal pattern at this point to the range low, to the trend line. So this would be a time where it's okay to do that. It just ends up not forming one. Continues down. We get this sharp downtrend. Ends up testing perfectly off of this level here, which basically just ends up acting like the break for this downtrend. We get it pushed straight down to a new low, ends up breaking out of the channel, and now we're getting the reversal higher from that. So what's likely to happen, because you can see overall we're in this uptrend, of course. Now that this downtrend has played out with a break to a new low, we're much more likely to just continue with this wider uptrend. This is a major reversal, and considering it's already played out so quickly with such a bullish reaction to that play out, it just indicates the bulls are still in control. this uptrend is still valid. We're going to want to look to continue with this uptrend if we can get a good trade. And another thing to consider is that we can look to extend this trend line to that level. So you can see how there's a lot of wick within this swing right here. I drew it straight off the bodies here, but sometimes as price extends, you can see here, I didn't drag it to that swing. I dragged it to the wick of that swing, right to the very wick of it, and then now it's holding perfectly. So I just wanted to say, if you're ever confused about drawing channels, sometimes drawing them off of the very wick will give you the bigger picture channel. So initially this was valid. Again, you can see, I know it's hard to see, I just wanted everyone to see that it's accurate here. That's right off the body, was slightly up there. So that's right off the body now. We got the initial reaction right to it, but then this downtrend needing to play out with a break to a new low pushes right down to the extended trend line. As you can see, that's right where we get that reaction. So it's important to understand these concepts, and it can really just help your trading, and it's just good to know this stuff. So anyway, the downtrend played out, which let me extend this overnight level, of course. So played out, we're currently reversing. We can look to get in on a failed second entry. We have this leg up here. If we can get something like these couple legs back, that can offer a good long on the way up. We can look to get in on a second leg up. Just want to make sure we have room to these highs, of course. Also, if price pushes up here, say it even has a break and makes a second leg up, if we're pushing higher, we can get a two-legged retest on top of this overnight high level, and that is, of course, regardless of whether that happens on the first leg out or whether it has a break and happens on the second leg out. If price does have a break and then starts making a second leg higher, we'll want, of course, room to that measured move level. We don't want price to reach the measured move level before correcting. We want price to push out, correct, and then have a good reaction so we can look to get long and get in on that second leg up to reach that measured move level. Because once it reaches it, we're more likely for a reversal back down. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Only 2-0 for the day on the ES. And yeah, I really appreciate you all watching, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.